Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Danielle Mitchell. I'm the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. We have with us Eric Say. Oh my goodness, I butchered it. Eric, please say your name correctly for everyone, please.
So my name is Eric Seboriamo, but actually everybody at Veeva, which is the company I work for, calls me Seb. So feel free to do the same.
Okay.
Trying to make it easier for you, Danielle.
I have been practicing before, and then once we started recording, oh my goodness. So thank you again. I am so excited about the sponsorship and the collaboration that we have with Veeva. And so I know a lot of the members are excited to hear more about Veeva. So I will let you take it away.
All right, great. Thanks, Danielle. Thank you all for taking time out of your day. You know, some of you have probably taken time out of your lunchtime, your break time to join us. Really happy to be here and talk a little bit about our company. Our hope is that in the partnership that we have with Black Women in Clinical Research is that we'll have a few more of these, and I'll bring some of my friends and colleagues with me. I need to apologize. We had a couple folks that were going to join us today that at the last minute got tied up with some customer conflicts. So you're stuck with just me, so that hopefully I can fill their shoes really well. So what I want to do is just do a little bit of an overview of who we are as a company. I work for Veeva Systems. It's our CEO jokes that it's the biggest tech company you've never heard of. And it's primarily because we're focused on life sciences. So, we serve businesses. So, you wouldn't have heard of us, through the consumer space, whether it's in commercials or even apps that you have on your mobile devices. But we're a growing company. We cover a breadth of areas within life sciences. We are kind of involved in the whole cycle, all the way from the inception of a brand or a product through the trial space, through the approval stages, and then into the commercial space when a product is either being promoted or prescribed. We support all of it. So I'll have a couple of slides that will talk about what we do, just to give you a sense of who we are. But I don't want to spend too much time in the slides, so feel free to interrupt me if you have a question, and then we'll obviously talk a little bit afterwards. So give me 1 second, let me pull my slides up a little bit and tell you about Veeva. All right, so stop me if you can't see my screen, but I assume you can.
Yes, we can see it, Eric.
All right, thanks, Danielle. So Veeva is an organization, a company that was founded in 2007. And actually this slide is wrong. We now have 6,700 employees globally. When I joined, we're really small. We're about 100 and change. We've grown quite a bit in the 12 years or so that I've been here, and we're actually looking to continue to grow. So we're working towards a goal of being 10,000 people by 2025, and we're on track to meet that goal. And what we do is we provide cloud-based software, data, and services or consulting to life sciences. So we do all types of stuff with our customers, and we work with the pharmaceutical companies and the biotechs in life sciences across the spectrum of the life sciences life cycle. So to give you a better sense of this, our main areas are kind of split into two buckets. We have the development cloud solutions and the commercial cloud solutions. The development cloud is essentially all the things that happen before a drug or product is approved by the FDA, right? So all the research, all the development, all the clinical trials, and all of those processes that happen before a drug is available to the public. We have software and data that supports that. So that's kind of the development cloud piece of it. And then we also support the commercial cloud. So all the things like the ads that you see on TV or billboards you may see, and even the interactions between pharmaceutical reps and doctors, the data that supports that, the engines that support that from a technology perspective, we have offerings for that as well. But in between that, we also have, it's a mix, right? It's not just product company. So we have product people, engineers, salespeople that talk to our customers, consultants that support our customers. But we're a company that also has marketing teams, HR teams. We have people supporting our benefits and our payroll. So that growth up to 10,000 also includes those teams. So, one of the questions that somebody sent earlier was, what are some of the jobs or the roles that are available? It kind of is a broad spectrum. We talk about the fact that all of our teams are hiring, and to nearly double in size, it would have to be that. So a little bit more about us as a company. This slide signifies our vision and values. And these are the values that really guide our decision making and everything that we do across the spectrum, from customer facing parts of our business to the more internal facing parts of our business, like our DEI efforts as well. So our goal and our vision is to be the industry cloud for life sciences. And we're very much committed to that goal, and we're striving and actually achieving that goal. Right? We're a partner to the entire industry by providing all those solutions that I mentioned. And our values are do the right thing. So that's kind of the first one that really guides how we operate, as well as customer success, employee success, and speed. And we talk about these things often. It's not just something that's on a slide. So a good example of this is during the start of the pandemic, when lockdowns started to happen, our customers couldn't go into hospitals to talk to doctors about products and drugs that can support patients. So what we did was we had a piece of software that supported a compliant way for a pharmaceutical rep to talk to a doctor remotely, which was something that pre-COVID in the industry was not useful. They didn't even want it. We had the product for a while, but very few people used it. But post-COVID, everybody needed it. So we gave it away for a whole year with no strings attached. You can use this until lockdown is over. If you want to stay with it, great. Let's talk about it after the year is up. If you don't, let's get back to work the other way that you used to work. So things like that, as well as the fact that in 2020, we became what's called a public benefit corporation, which I'll talk about in a second, are examples of us doing the right thing and really living out those values. So the public benefit corporation, you probably saw that kind of footnote under our logo. So that what that essentially means is that we can't just say we're about doing the right thing. We now have a legal obligation to do it, which was a unique thing for a company of our size to do. So essentially, when you become a corporation, there's paperwork that you have to fill out to do that. And for the most part, the paperwork typically makes the company commit to maximizing or supporting their shareholders. So maximizing profits for their shareholders, doing right by their shareholders. But that's kind of it. That's all you typically have to sign as a corporation, as a commitment. And when our CEO first filled out that paperwork, it didn't really sit well with him. And he always thought, well, there's more we should be committing to. Right? We're not just here to make money for our shareholders. And this concept of becoming a public benefit corporation, it took a while to figure out, and it wasn't something that many companies had done, and certainly none of our size and not a public company had done it. But over the years, they worked with our legal team in figuring out how do we extend our commitment to go beyond the shareholder, but to also include our customers, our employees, the communities that we serve, and really commit to this value that we have of doing the right thing. So in 2020, that's what we did. And what it essentially does is it allows us to set goals for ourselves, to better serve the industry, to create job opportunities that are meaningful and available and accessible. And even the way that we design our products, right? A lot of our products don't have barriers to entry for our customers. We don't, upcharge our customers for access to their data and things like that. All of these things add up to what we're really about, which is being a true partner and really serving the industry and the folks that we have in-house. So that's what we mean by us being a public benefit company. We really essentially put our, committed to this thing that we've been talking about for a long time. The interesting thing about it is because we always had that value and we were always about it, it didn't change much of how we operate. It just it solidified it, right? And put it in black and white. Another thing I want to share is the fact that we're a work anywhere company. This also happened in 2020. So I've been with the company a long time, and most of my career started in the services space. So that's the consultants that essentially implement our software, work with our customers on projects, things like that. So that part of the house has always been remote. I've never worked in a Veeva office. It actually took me 8 years before I even stepped foot in our headquarters that's in the Bay Area in California. Most of my work was at home. I've had a lot of homes in that time, but I used to work in my kitchen, in my bedroom, and now I'm fortunate enough to have an office. But I've always been remote, and it's not a foreign concept to us. Even the way the company was founded was through Peter Gassner, our CEO and founder, based out of the Bay Area, and Matt Wallach, our co-founder and former president, was based out of Philly. So they were working remotely when they started the company. And, they kind of learned how to do it and propagated that out to the rest of the organization. But until before 2020, there were parts of our business that still were office-based. It was primarily engineers, product managers, and some of our supporting functions like HR and marketing were based in offices, and a few others. But we made the decision to really alleviate that and let people work where they feel most comfortable and most productive, and are able to do their best work. So work anywhere became a policy that's available to everyone now. It's not just specific to certain teams, and it's forever. We're committed to this. There are certain teams that are required to live, that people are required to live within certain time zones, primarily because of the nature of the work and making it easier to just collaborate and things like that. That nobody is forced to come into an office unless your job is office specific. Like we have a couple of pretty large offices that have kitchen staffs, for example. They clearly need to come in. But otherwise, everybody can choose where to work. And that's a policy that we'll have for forever. Now, a couple of things I wanted to highlight, and I have this slide because the two women that were going to join me today actually started their career in this space. But we have these development programs for early career folks, people who are like a couple years into the workforce or even less, maybe straight out of school, for example. And we call it Generation Veeva. And it's these groups of teams that are geared towards bringing folks that are early in their career and training them in specific disciplines. And we have these teams globally, and they're categorized into the different functions that they support. So the first being our engineering development program. And then we have a consultant development program, which would train folks like for the roles that I used to have coming up. Business consultant development program is similar, but it's consulting that's more about making business decisions and less about implementing a product. Analytics development program is to develop folks that would become data scientists, for example, work with our data offerings. And then sales development program is to develop folks that would become our sales executives or account executives. So those are the folks that work directly with the customers to position our solutions. So it started with just one of these. It started with the consultant development program, and it's expanded out from there. And it serves a couple different purposes, right? First, it's allowing folks that are starting off in their career to really start off in a great way and learn a craft on the job. These are not internships, they're full-time positions. And what it's actually also created for us is a lot of our future leaders are coming through these programs. So we have folks in leadership right now that started in, the original teams of these programs less than 10 years ago. And we're very much leaning on Generation Viva to continue that, but also folks have left and started their own businesses or are now working with our customers and are part of the broader industry ecosystem, which is very much in line with that public benefit mission that I mentioned of creating meaningful job opportunities and providing that to our ecosystem or our industry. So these are great programs, and we'll certainly look to have folks that are part of the Generation Viva team come chat with you all if there's a lot of interest there. And then the last slide I want to show is really hitting on the work that I do, and that's our diversity, equity, and inclusion mission. So like a lot of companies, we really had our awakening moment in 2020, primarily because of the killing of George Floyd, but not just George Floyd, right? It was a string of these events that I'm sure I don't need to educate any of you on. But that kind of alignment of these events occurring back to back, as well as us being in lockdown and really just having to focus on it, right? It was an awakening moment for a lot of folks. For a lot of us, we've been seeing this for years, but there were a lot of folks around us that had the opportunity to turn a blind eye to certain that now couldn't. So like many organizations that I'm sure you've talked to or seen, that's really what kickstarted our focus and our intention around this space and allowed us to launch our initiatives. And, we have three key focuses in DEI, the first being talent attraction. So we're really challenging how we message our opportunities and even promote ourselves and where we do it, right? There's this myth that there's no pipeline of, let's say, Black talent or women in tech. And it's not true. The problem is we're not going to the right places to talk to folks about what's available to them. We're not putting in the effort to really ensure that hiring managers are seeing a diverse mix of talented individuals when they recruit and they evaluate folks. So there's a lot of effort there, as well as ensuring that the process of evaluation is equitable. We're also working on our culture, right? Really leaning on the things in our culture that allow this place to be as inclusive as possible, ensure that people can do their best work and be comfortable, people of all walks of life. So we're doubling down on the things that we've done really well over the years, but also moving with a lot more intention. One, because you have to, otherwise the culture will fade. Two, because we're growing at such a large rate that there are a lot of folks that don't know what it was like in the early days like I do. So there's a need to move with intention and really focus on it. We have the saying that, we want to grow, but remain still Viva. And that's not necessarily holding on to the things that are old, but holding on to the things that make us who we really are, that are true to our core values. And the last thing is we're investing a lot in education and awareness. We've built our own trainings in-house to educate hiring managers on things like bias, microaggressions, how to recruit and evaluate talent better, and really be inclusive leaders. But also just as a whole, the organization has really opened up avenues for folks to talk about things we didn't used to talk about work and provide folks a platform. One of the ways we're doing that is through our employee resource groups. So these are the diversity communities that you're seeing here. We have 4 so far, but we're looking to expand in the future. But our current focus is we have a women's community, Black community, a Viva Pride community, and an Asian community. There's a lot of cross collaboration. The intersectionality of topics that are meaningful to folks is deep. So we do a lot of collaboration, a lot of discussions, a lot of great work that's happening through these groups and these communities. And it's been amazing to see the change, right? The shift in keeping the conversations more business focused and maybe, kind of small talkish, to really getting to know one another and lean into the things that make us different, because we believe that's what's really going to provide us the opportunity to find common ground in an authentic way. And authenticity is something that's always been super meaningful to us. And it's embedded in everything that we do, but specifically in this space, because it's about our people and the people that will hopefully join us in the future. So I'll pause here. Because like I said, I don't want to be in the slides the whole time. But I'd love to answer any questions you may have. I love the comment, Danielle, Spike Lee.
Yes, when you said do the right thing, I know for me, I always put things to either to music or quotes from people. So yes, and when you said that, I immediately thought about Spike Lee, about doing the right thing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
did we want to talk about the questions that the members had already had? I do have it pulled up. One of the questions are, what are some roles CRAs should apply for?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about this one when you sent it across. It really does depend. Like I said, we have roles in a spectrum of spaces. So if you're looking to grow, let's say from a technical perspective, right, and you're interested in learning a bit more about product management or engineering, there's a path there. If you enjoy more customer facing things, there could be an avenue in sales or consulting. Or maybe you're interested in, being a marketing individual or HR individual. Like, we wouldn't pigeonhole anyone in one space. The one thing that, folks that are in this room or CRA would have as an advantage is that industry knowledge or that industry exposure. So each of our teams and each of the buckets that we support have all those roles. So there are clinical specific teams that have product people, salespeople, engineers, consultants, and also have what we call talent partners or recruiters, people that help them find candidates, things like that. So I think leaning into that clinical space would be great, but like which role you pick, it really does depend on what you want to do. So like I said, we're hiring everywhere in all disciplines. So the short answer is it depends. There's no shortage of opportunities.
So I do have a question too. Is there an opportunity for members to, meet with someone from Veeva just to kind of, based upon their background, just kind of, I know a lot of times there's so many different positions and a lot of times you don't know which is the right direction or based upon your experience. Is there possibly an option that we could explore with, having someone, because I think a lot of times it's hard navigating this industry and especially when you want to transition. So if you have the typical clinical research background, when you are starting to look for positions outside of, the normal CRA positions, you don't really know, I guess in a sense, you don't know what you don't know. So if
Yeah,
you don't know that these positions are available or a position that you can pivot to, a lot of times people can say, okay, based upon, your clinical research, being a CRA, this could be a position that you could explore. So maybe that might be something that, we could do, looking at transferable skills and kind of matching those up with what would be good for people in those previous roles.
yeah, absolutely. And in terms of connecting with team members, I'd certainly be happy to support that. I think we can chat about the way to like the logistics behind it.
Okay.
I'm definitely available, and I'm also, if we figure out kind of categories of roles or functions that people are most interested in, we can pull in somebody that's doing it now, and maybe that came from a similar path, right? To talk to somebody who's really done it. So yeah, 100% would be open to that.
Okay. And the next question is training provided for consultant roles?
Yes, it is. The type of training depends on, your background. So for example, the development teams that I mentioned, so that Generation Veeva group, there's a lot more structured training there because we're hiring folks that maybe never even studied business or anything, right? We have philosophy majors that come over and join these teams, right? So there's a bit more of education around what is the industry? What are these parts of life sciences? What is even clinical research, right? Some folks don't have any exposure to that. And then also more development geared towards the function itself, presentation skills, how to run a project, how to structure a timeline, that sort of thing. As you get to more experience levels, some of that goes away and there's more emphasis on certain things depending on your background. So from an experience level perspective, we may hire somebody who's been a consultant for a long time. They know how to be a project manager, all that good stuff, but maybe they don't know anything about our software. They don't know anything about life sciences. So the emphasis would be on those things, essentially filling the gaps. So the short answer is yes, we tend to tailor it based on the experience level, and then the manager also adds an added layer of tweaking it based on the person themselves.
Okay. Which clinical research roles are aligned with Veeva Vault roles?
So we have a clinical suite of vaults, essentially. So actually, let me see if I can pull this up for you. 1 second. So I'll share this. So these are all the different vaults that exist in our development cloud. So clinical data, clinical operations, regulatory, quality, and drug safety are all things we support on the development cloud is what we call it. So from a product perspective, there are all these buckets. And then we also have teams that support all of these different functional areas. So again, I'm going to give you a very high level answer, and I'd love to dig deeper, right, to specific individuals that are asking this. But the short answer is there's a lot, because again, all of those teams have sales teams, they have product folks, they have engineers, they have folks that do quality assurance on our products, right, doing testing. They have people who do documentation for those products. They have consultants at various levels, from the development side that I mentioned, right, the early career side, to very experienced folks. They have recruiters that help with talent attraction. They have teams that are focused on marketing those brands and those products, talking to customers. They have folks who demo the products. Their role is to come in during the sales cycle and show what the product can do. It's a pretty wide breadth of things that happen within those buckets. So, don't think just because it's a tech company that all we hire is our engineers. We have a pretty wide array of roles. So certainly would love to dig a little bit deeper, as Danielle suggested, right? And figure out like ways to show the different options based on interests and also experience. Because there may be something else that you've done that's also very related to one of our functions still on those clinical teams. But there's a lot of roles. It's a very short answer that may be of interest, depending on what other things you've done in your career or things that you're interested in doing.
So what are some entry-level roles?
So certainly the Generation Veeva roles, those would be considered entry level, because there isn't a requirement for previous work experience necessarily. It's a nice to have if you've done some work. So some of you that are working in clinical research could have a leg up, but it's geared towards early career folks, so 1 to 2 years work experience max. But aside from that, I keep mentioning the two supporting teams, HR and marketing. They're not our only two, but they're good examples of kind of roles you wouldn't think of immediately at a tech company. But we have all sorts of associate roles on those teams. So for example, marketing has folks that support our events, right? We're going to have a pretty big gathering in January of 2,000 of our colleagues getting together in Orlando. And the marketing team essentially runs that. So there are folks that help coordinate that and manage the events, plan it, get the swag and all that good stuff, figure out the entertainment. So it's a different path into a tech or life sciences company, but those roles exist. Similarly, our HR, which we call employee success. So if you look for HR on our career website, that may be the other name that you see is employee success. We have a ton of entry-level roles there that range from working with data or supporting our benefits team, supporting payroll, supporting internal activities as well, So quite a bit of entry-level roles. It could be both, roles that support our customers or roles that support our folks in-house as well.
So I do have another question. So with the Generation Veeva roles, when you go to Veeva's website, do they say Generation Veeva? Okay, they do. Okay.
Yeah, we have so our career website, and I can pull it up in a second, but it essentially has the ability to do a bunch of filters to key in on specific functions. So Generation Veeva is one, you can just check that box and it will open up all the things that you have. And then also you can filter by geographic area and things like that. So it's pretty easy to navigate. So if you're interested in finding more about those, you can click on that to filter a search specific to that team.
Okay. And what is the interview process?
So that's a great question. So it's broken up into typically 3 to 4 interviews, which sounds like a lot, but it's a good opportunity, one, to ensure that bias is minimized because there's a couple of different people that get pulled in. So it's not just one person's opinion, but also each interview focuses on different parts of the process. So typically you might have a screen with a recruiter. That one's a bit more high level. They'll chat with you about your interests. Maybe they'll have questions about your application, that sort of thing. But then after that, you're jumping right to talking to the person who may be your manager if you get hired. And with that person leading the charge from then on, you're really not talking to a recruiter anymore. You're talking to the people who are doing the job. And from there, there'll be a couple different conversations. One would be focused on your work history or your experience, very much kind of going through your resume, but not just to list out the things you've done, but they may have questions about, oh, what made you shift from this role to that role? Or what were some challenging things that you faced during this time in your career? That sort of thing. And what we really look for is we're trying to paint the story of the individual, trying to get to know you a little bit more and figure out, beyond what's on paper, what are kind of the things between the lines that really have shaped you, and could be a culture add or a value add to our team. Another component of the interview is a hands-on exercise. So that's going to depend on the team, and it's going to be a different one that's really more relevant to what work you will do. But for example, our consultants, they will get kind of a sample version of one of our products and configure it and present on their solution. So they get given a business case and they can work on it for about a week or so. And then, you're presenting it to a panel of folks. And what we look for there is really kind of your thought process on the solution, not so much how technical it is and things like that. I mean, we want folks to try, but we also recognize that some folks have never touched this technology before. So we're not expecting folks to become experts in a week. But it's a good way to figure out like how somebody thinks of a solution. And, if you're given a business problem, how do you think about solving it? What are the things that you consider? That sort of thing. That's usually in front of 2 or 3 people. So there, again, another, opportunity for you to meet other folks on the team and get different perspectives from the feedback. but also you can ask them questions, right? And get to know us a little bit better. We're pretty keen on figuring out if it's a fit for you and also if we're a fit for you, vice versa. So we look for folks to ask questions of us just as much as we're asking them questions, because we want to be honest and upfront about everything, so that we're not walking into, a relationship that it has limited information on either end of the spectrum. We also like to have a conversation that is more about, um, Veeva, our culture. We may educate you on some of the things that we're about, but also we want to know a little bit about you and your story. What made you get into clinical research? What are the things that maybe you were exposed to early in life that motivate you now to do the work that you do? So there is a little bit of trying to get to know the person, kind of what motivates you, but also trying to connect a little bit, right? Because it's hard to really know, if somebody's going to be a fit or a great add to the team without getting to know them beyond, the resume and beyond LinkedIn profile. So we do take the time to try to do that, and try to connect with folks that we are meeting through the candidate process. So that one is a little bit of a non-traditional path. I think most companies kind of stick to the script there, but we feel it's important and it helps us make a better informed decision, but it also helps the person, again, figure out if they are a fit and truly want to join Veeva as well. So 3 to 4 conversations typically, that include those different components. So it can be a little bit lengthy, but it's worth the time investment, because our goal is to bring on people that can continue to grow within our organization. We're big on internal mobility. So the role that you walk in with, it may not be the role you end up being in, let's say, a couple of years' time. I've had 5 jobs at Veeva, and it's not an uncommon story. A lot of us have moved around within the organization as it's grown. We encourage that. We're big on that. We like to grow within as well as hire from the outside. So there's a huge emphasis on really ensuring that we're being upfront throughout the process, as well as offering as much information as the person needs to make the right decision for them, just as much as we're going to ask questions. So the part that's not included in the 3 to 4 conversations that I always encourage people to do is feel free to ask to talk to somebody on the team that you may be joining, or feel free to ask to talk to somebody that's in one of our ERGs, right? We'll be very open and willing to share it, that, and let you connect with folks so you can get a sense for a day in the life. Like, what's it been like for you here? What do you like about this place? That sort of thing. I always stress that it's a good thing to ask for. Not everybody will offer it, but if you ask, they'll certainly provide that to you for sure.
Okay. This is the next question. I understand they are expanding their scope of business. I'd like to hear more details about that and what it may mean for upskilling and career opportunities that support the expanded business model.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the number 10,000 that we're striving for, I often joke, but it's not really a joke, that some of those jobs don't exist yet. Some of those teams that will make up that number aren't there yet. And it's, again, because we're expanding our reach within the industry, but also outside of life sciences. So there was a question, I'll kind of jump to it, about our quality management system. So it's another vault that helps, organizations store, let's say, like procedural documents or documentation that ensures quality across their processes. So that's a product that actually we offer to other companies that are not in life sciences. We have cosmetics companies or manufacturing companies that use it now. So that space of the companies that are not in life sciences is certainly an area of growth, right? We are nowhere near the industry partner that we are in life sciences outside of it, but we're expanding outward as well. Another piece that we're growing quite a bit is our data offerings. So for a good chunk of the time that Veeva was around, we focused on providing the platforms that support the industry and allowing them to store outside data or third-party data into our products. But we've expanded quite a bit our data offerings, things like patient data or prescription data. We've grown a huge part of that business. And we even acquired an organization about 3 years ago to help us expand it even further. So there's a ton of growth opportunity there that will lead to job opportunities as well. And the third piece that I would mention is we never used to have what I would call management consultants. So management consultants are not focused on technology necessarily, but they may help a pharmaceutical company figure out how to split up their field teams. Like, how many sales reps do you need in Texas or in Detroit? And why is that the number? Or how should you be training your folks? Like, different business decisions that aren't specific to technology. So that's a team that's growing quite a bit. And I think they started maybe 2 years ago, and we're looking to grow them to about 500 people in the next couple of years. So lots of opportunity there. And they also have one of those development programs. So they're hiring folks that are net new to the industry or to the space as well. So I would say those are 3 bucket areas that I can name confidently. But there are other things that I'm not even privy to, right? That we may decide to solve either for the industry or outside of the industry that will expand our approach and provide future opportunities as well. And I want to chime in on a question we got in the chat. So somebody asked if we offer internships. We don't technically. So there are a couple opportunities for internships through some of our offices, but we don't have like a structured internship program that looks for large numbers of interns. It may be something that you find like 1 or 2 roles on our career site for, but we don't typically have the internship kind of engine that you see in some of other companies. So rather than do that, we have our development programs, which does require you to have, at least completed high school. So it's not something that's available to teens, but it's, full-time positions.
Would like to give people an opportunity to come off of mute and ask questions. So if anyone has any questions that you would like to ask Eric, please feel free. And whatever questions that we don't have a chance to answer, we'll make sure that we follow up. Say, now's your opportunity.
Well, I see one here about my department, if I'm hiring. So I'm not right now, but it's a similar thing to what I mentioned about the growth piece. The near term, I don't have a role out there that's posted, but there are certainly areas where I'm looking to grow, where the answer to that question may change in a few months. And the biggest one is getting some help on the talent attraction front. So looking for folks who have experience and have expertise infusing DEI into talent attraction, which is something that we certainly want to invest more heavily into. So stay tuned. I'll certainly let Danielle know if we open up that position or others, and we'll communicate it to the members.
So here's another question. I'm also interested in becoming a SME on VivaVault. Does Veeva offer training to people outside of the organization?
That's something we don't offer yet, but it is something we're talking about right now. So We do have what we call admin training or product training, but it's mostly offered to customers, partners, or our team members. And certainly anybody who joins Veeva and supports one of the vaults, would get that training. But we don't have an offering right now that's available to folks on the outside. But it is something that we're talking about, especially as we're working towards expanding our reach from a talent attraction perspective. One of the ideas is figuring out a way to do like workshops and boot camps around our products. So certainly exploring it, but it's not available today.
Yeah, I think it would be a great idea to have it to where people could become, in a sense, Viva certified, so that they can show that they have experience with Viva and they know how to navigate it. Because this would help people as well, because a lot of companies use Viva. So, if people could have that option to have at least experience Viva before they start working in these roles, then once they, I feel like that would make them more attractive to really everyone if you know how to use the Viva system. So I'm just throwing that out there because I remember
I
when
agree with
I
you.
learned how to use Viva for the first time, it was when I was at the CRO and I was like, wait a minute, wait, so I felt like if I could have had maybe some prior training or introduction to Viva beforehand, the system was great, but just that initial, like, especially when you're starting at a new company, now you're learning all of these different new systems at one time. So I think that would have been great having the opportunity to learn Viva beforehand. And so maybe that might be something that, maybe y'all can have a certification or someone can say, I'm Viva certified now. So watch out. Oh,
Yeah, I
someone just
agree.
said yes, because I'm in Viva right now and I'm sweating. Yeah, I had told Bree that as well, because it can be a lot when you are learning all of these different systems, and Viva was just one system that you learn when you start at the CRO. So someone just asked, I am using Track. Is that a form of Viva Vault? Is that a form of Viva Vault?
I don't know. So what happens sometimes is the folks, our organizations that use our products will rebrand them in-house. So it's possible that it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
If you see any little orange V's in there, then it probably is.
Okay, so this is a product question. How does EDC Vault, I guess, maybe differ from others on the market? Example, metadata rave.
Yeah. So I don't know the two, metadata and rave, as closely. But the big thing about our Vault products is one, they're cloud-based and they're very easy to configure. So you don't have to open a ticket every time that you need to tweak something as a company and have one of us do it, right? It's pretty user-friendly, both from the admin perspective and from the end user perspective. And the goal of all of our platforms in the clinical space is to decentralize trials, standardize the platform that they're on. So it's not this custom solution that's always having to get tweaked and be re-supported, and provide an industry standard that is also easily integrated with the next phase of the product lifecycle. So all of that makes trials much easier to run. You can run them a lot quicker, and it opens up that accessibility as well. So that's something that I would say is unique to EDC, but really all of our Vault platforms that are in the trial space. It's about creating a solution that's easy to use, that doesn't add more work to that space, right? It supports it. It's simple, it's open, and it's supported through the platform so that it doesn't burden the organizations that are using it.
Okay, we have a member who raised their hand. Crystal, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome. Hi, hope you're having a great day. One question that I have is I've been on the careers website multiple times, but I struggle with specific positions. I don't want to like apply for 12 different positions, consultant versus strategy type positions, but I have experience in implementation and strategy on the CRO and pharmaceutical/sponsor side. So I'm
Mhm.
just trying to get a better understanding of what type of roles fit best for that experience, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so implementation would typically be either consultant or professional services roles. So those are ones where you're going to be working hands-on with one of our platforms. You may be making tweaks for a customer or implementing it for the first time for them. Typically, our strategy roles are more focused on the sales side. So our strategy folks are the ones that figure out what is the market for this product. How should we position it? How do we even price this thing? So it's more of kind of the big picture vision of the
Mhm.
product or strategy piece. So what you may be referring to from an implementation perspective, where there is a strategic partnership, you're kind of in charge of figuring out how to implement something and even coaching a customer on how they should be using a platform. So, you know, from a terminology or like a specific definition perspective, in a sense, you're doing more than just clicks and buttons, right? There is
Right,
strategy involved in that,
right.
but it wouldn't be as aligned to the title of a strategy role as we define it. Those are more the folks, they're kind of like the general managers of a product, and they figure out what we should do with it, who could use it, what customers we should be working with to position it, how to price it, and even like which geographic region should we tackle first, like who needs it most, that sort of thing. So more
So
like,
what about in regards to like a specific program, just say, for example, that a CRO may be getting, and I am the one that is on the team that is strategizing, okay, this is what we need this product to do,
yeah,
XYZ, and kind of strategizing that part and working with the Veeva or another person, to say, okay, can you meet these type of specs and that type of thing?
yeah. So those would be more on the consulting side.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So
thank
you'd
you.
either be like the person running the project or part of the team, right? Just figuring out like, how are we going to use this thing? What are the requirements? How do we roll it out? Who gets access? Like those type of strategic
Yes,
decisions.
yes,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Mhm. No problem.
I'm over here talking and on mute. This will probably be the last question. This question is asking, I would love to know more about the quality management system software.
Yeah. So that was the piece that I talked about earlier. It's been both within life sciences and outside of life sciences. So that's one of our vaults that's used for managing, what are the documentation or processes that help ensure we are doing this in a compliant way, and there's quality being tracked. So that's expanded outside of life sciences. It's now being used by cosmetics companies, manufacturing companies. And that's an example of how we've expanded out beyond, pharmaceutical biotechs and that ecosystem. But it's all on the Vault platform. And essentially the Vault platform, what's cool about it is the platform, if you were to log in at different vaults, a lot of it looks pretty uniform. So it's kind of easier on the user if they're supporting different parts of it. But we bake in kind of business requirements or specific to that process into the product, industry standard things that are needed, so that you don't need to customize it to death. right? It's supporting the things that you would need to do, and then you can add configuration to it. So that would be an example of what the quality QMS is what we call it, supports.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Eric. Thank you everyone for joining for our Lunch and Learn. Please feel free to drop your LinkedIn URL in the chat and make sure that you connect with Eric if you have any more questions about the roles at Veeva, looking at your background and seeing how you would be a good fit for Veeva. So please feel free. Eric has gave you the green light to reach out to him on LinkedIn. And we will have another meeting to follow up and probably to dig deeper into the actual roles and those transferable skills. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll leave the chat up so that everyone can connect with dropping their LinkedIn URL. Thank you for sharing your lunch with us. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.